Yeah, yeah. We just chillin' and vibing. Good conversations with good people. Oh, good conversations with good people. Yeah,
Welcome to another episode of Chillin' and Vibing Podcast. Today's guest, man, he's not just a coach. He not just don't coach football, he make them. Y'all welcome, man. The one, the only. Gio, what's going on, man?
What's going on, guys? I appreciate you for having me. Thank you so much.
Hey, man, I appreciate you for coming to Chill and Vibe, man. So, Gio, where you from, man?
Hmm. I'm from Seattle. I'm from Seattle, Washington. So I live right here, Pacific Northwest. I live probably like 10 minutes from the Space Needle. So I live super close. Burien, Washington, more specifically, which is a suburb of Seattle.
So, you a Seahawks fan?
No, I'm a Raider fan. I'm a Raider fan. I grew up a
Oh,
Raider fan,
man.
and my stepfather kind of ingrained. It's ingrained in me. It's ingrained
Okay.
in me.
So, what made you fall in love with football?
Man, so when I first moved to the U.S., soccer wasn't really a thing. This was back in 1999, and where I moved, I became the only Mexican kid with predominantly African American kids, and they used to play a game that's the reference, the wording is a little bit politically incorrect, but it was called Smear the Queer, and it was like one of the first English words that I heard, and I was like, man, I want to go play. And I was just fascinated with this idea that you can like tackle somebody and not get in trouble, and it's something that we didn't do in Mexico. So from there, it just kind of grew on me. It was just like this idea that you could tackle somebody and not get in trouble and be violent, and it was just such a it was just such like a man's game to me, and I thought it was just I was right away just fascinated with it. And my stepfather is a huge Raider fan, and he used to watch the Raiders, and this was back when the Raiders were actually pretty good, and I grew up watching that, and just kind of between my stepfather and living in that apartment complex, it just kind of well, and like I said, back in the day, there was no MLS, so soccer wasn't really a thing. It was, but it wasn't what it is now.
Oh yeah, soccer done took off, man. Like a lot of people. My
Yeah,
daughter, I just now put her in soccer. She got her second game coming up.
yeah. Now it is, but back in the day, where there was soccer was not a thing. It was not something that was. Um, it just wasn't a thing.
So back in the day, did you play football in
I
high
didn't
school?
start playing football until I got to middle school. I played flag football, but I tried to play youth ball. But my parents, they were young; they were in their early 20s, and I think knowing, now that as you know, as a parent, it's so hard to go to practice and to go to work and to do all these things, and I'm able to kind of understand why they didn't do it, because it would got to. I mean, they had 4 kids, so it was a lot for them. Um, and then so I wanted to play, but I did not play organized sports until middle school.
So how did your coaching journey started?
When I was 16, I looked at myself in the mirror and I said, "Hey, you're not gonna be 6'5", bro. You're not gonna be 6'5", 300." And being the oldest of four, it was just like this is what I wanted to do. So I was always kind of like leading. And when I was a player, I always was fascinated with the coaching aspect of it. You can make a difference. You can do it. And early on, I knew that I wasn't going to be a professional athlete. I just knew it, and it wasn't anything. I thought I was a decent player, but it's just sometimes you just got to be realistic and know that this is not this is in the path. But I was always just fascinated with coaching. I had coaches that made a big influence on me, and I think that's where it stems from. Is I had really good coaches who made a drastic impact on my life, and that's what I wanted to do. Because ultimately, the game of football saved me. If it wasn't for the game of football, I don't know. I don't know where I would be, but I wouldn't be where I am in life today.
So as a coach, what do you value most? Talent or discipline?
Discipline, discipline. I think I would have to say discipline. So some of my because everybody has favorites. some of my favorite players I've ever coached are not the most talented. They've been the most disciplined, the the best people, just great human beings.
How do you build a winning culture on a team?
Mm. It starts something that has really helped me in my coaching journey is having like leadership committees. I think so much of leadership comes from within the players. Some of the best teams that I've ever been a part of have not been coaches led; it's been player led. But especially in losing programs, you need to coach the players how to be leaders. They need to be coached on how to win because they don't know how to win. And then having giving the players some ownership into what they do and being transparent. I think more than anything, something that has helped, in my coaching journey, is just being honest. I think so often people are afraid to just be honest or hurt people's feelings, but you can be honest with somebody and mean well behind it. Like I've taken over programs that didn't win a game. When most recently when I was Evergreen, they hadn't won a game in 3 years, and I was honest with the players and I said this is what it is. But it also starts from, I think above all, it starts at home. Like one of the things that helped us, and kind of change our mindset more than anything is changing the mindset at home, meaning that like we were trying to get parents involved, like in the team meal aspect. We were trying to get the parents to hold their kid accountable. Especially in the inner city, I think a lot of this stems from at home, meaning that like there's a strong correlation between poverty and losing. I hate to say that, but there's a strong correlation between poverty and losing, and I say that with very confidence because when I used to coach at a private school and we wanted to see championship there, and everybody was like, "Oh, these are a bunch of entitled rich kids." No, them kids worked their ass off, bro. Them kids were there. If you told them we got workouts at 5 a.m., they were going to be there at 5 a.m. And I think not enough credit is given to the fact that a lot of wealthy people are also extremely hardworking people. And I think that's the correlation is that changing the culture is understanding that work ethic. You need to work, and then getting them out of that poverty mindset, getting them out of that. Like I remember I was in the meeting one time and this kid was like, "My mom didn't say I have to do it." I'm like, "Your mom lives in Section 8, bro. What are we talking about here?" Like you're already in that mindset. You're already in that single parent mindset. You have to break out of that if your goal is to ultimately take care of her one day. And then again, it goes back to the biggest thing is just being honest, but in a loving way. We're not trying to demean you. We're trying to help you.
So how do you handle players with good talent but bad attitudes?
Mm. I think that's something that I would still even now I would still be trying to figure out. How do you handle great players with man, that's such a blessing and a curse. I think that's such a hard one. I think by the time they get to you with just 15, 16 years old, so much of their mindset's already kind of set in their ways. But I would say finding a coach on your staff that can reach them. I think if you hire well, right, like if you're a head
Mhm.
football coach and if you hire well, you're not going to be able to reach every player. Just like teaching, as a teacher, there's going to be some kids who just don't like you for one reason or another. But if you hire well, if you have coaches on your staff, that's why, like, when even right now, if I was to hire a staff, I would make sure I had a Polynesian coach, a few black coaches, a few white coaches, a few, like a diverse staff that can reach kids in different ways, that have different life experiences in ways that I can't do.
Mhm.
And I do that on purpose because I understand that I'm only one person. I can only do so much. But above all, probably showing them that you care and are willing to be honest with them and not bullshit them. For lack of better words. Excuse my language.
What's the toughest decision you have to make as a coach?
Oof, the toughest decision you have to make as a coach. Probably there's two aspects. The toughest decisions that you have to make as a coach sometimes is maybe firing a coach. It's understanding that somebody on the staff is not good for you one way or another. I think that's something very. I've been in that position, and it happens. Even as long as they. And the next one would probably have to be sometimes playing time. It's distributing who plays, who doesn't, because at the end of
Mhm.
the day, those players work hard for a reason. Um, but I think a lot of those things kind of get answered with film and whatnot. If you as a coach, if you're very studious. But probably playing time and firing coaches will be the two hardest things that I would do. And then, yeah, I would say those two things are probably the hardest. And then maybe also I would say this, maybe dealing with administration too. Like I think that as a football coach, especially at the high school level and the college level, not enough credit is given to how much BS you deal with behind the scenes. You deal with a lot of it. You deal with administrators who've never played football. You deal with, and the crazy thing is, we're gonna make a better impact on the kids than anybody in that damn building. But they still don't respect you the way that you. I mean, you're getting paid $5, $7, $10,000 a year to be there almost every day, and the kids respect you a lot more. But probably also administration, bro. Like just dealing with people who've never played football before. So,
Speaking of dealing with people who never played football, how do you deal with parents that try to be the coach?
I mean, fortunately, I never, as a head football coach, I didn't have to do that. As an assistant, I did, and I've actually had to deal with. Again, it goes back to just being honest. I think I've never been afraid of conversation, and I've never been afraid of having hard conversation, but also listening. Like, okay, like I've talked to a parent before where the kid rushed for 300 yards, and the parent just wasn't happy, and I would listen. I'm like, okay, what would you do? Like, let me hear you out. And I think it's kind of like, I think one analogy that I have is kind of like you've ever come across somebody and they're really pissed off, they're really mad, and if you just listen to them, and you just kind of give them a little bit of time to just kind of like decompress, and you're like, okay, so what now? That helps the psychology of it. It's not debating them, but just listening to them. I mean, like, okay, this is your thought process. This is my thought process, but also not going too far as feeling like you need to justify yourself because you're in that role for a reason. You know, and it goes back to like the administration side. You have to make sure you have an admin that really has your back because whether you're 10-0 and 0-10, you are going to have parents who just don't feel like you're doing a good job, and you need to have an admin that has your back.
What advice would you give someone who wants to become a coach? What would you tell them?
The advice: don't do it for money. I think I've had a lot of coaches who they see the big contracts on TV. That is the 0.0000001%. Everybody else ain't making squat. Man, if you coach high school football, if you coach middle school, you ain't making money. You're not. You're just not. And, I've had thousands of friends that have been in and out of the industry. And if your goal is to make a decent amount of money in coaching, become a teacher. Like I have, I knew early on that high school teaching would be kind of my role. So I went back to school. I got 2 masters, and I was able to get to a point where I made 6 figures teaching. So coaching was just kind of like a bonus. So if your goal is to make a decent living coaching, become a teacher with multiple degrees. But yeah, it's don't do it for money because it's not. If anything, you end up spending money because as a coach, you deal with so many young people who are going through so many problems. You're gonna find a way to be there for them. Kids who don't have cleats, who don't have. I mean, people wouldn't know who I am if it wasn't for coaching in the city because my kids didn't have footballs. I had to go buy them myself. I had to go buy the footballs myself. The school did not provide them for me.
Wow, man, that's a big heart. That's a big heart.
You know.
I salute you for that because a lot of people wouldn't do that.
Oh, I mean, there's no other way. Yeah.
Speaking of football, when did you realize you wanted to turn that passion of making footballs into a business?
So I tore my Achilles. So I was the head football coach Evergreen High School here in White Center, here by where I live. And when I got let go, that same school year, I was still teaching at the school, and I tore my Achilles like 2 months before the school year. So I got fired in December, and I tore my Achilles. I want to say in June, early June. So between those months, when I tore my Achilles, I was like, man, like I just got fired from the school, from coaching. I ended up getting displaced from my position, and I tore my Achilles. So I kind of had a trifecta of things go bad for me. So I was like, man, I need to do something. Like this is not healthy. So I took on I had a bunch of footballs because I was living in a 1 bedroom apartment at the time. I had downsized in hopes of buying a house. And I had these footballs, and I'm like, bro, these are taking up too much space. Let me sell them. And they sold like in 48 hours, 24 hours. They sold like that. And I was like, there's got to be something here. And so I realized that breaking in footballs. So I don't make the footballs. I break in the leather of the footballs. I kind of soften up the leather. I go through that whole process. But I realized that there wasn't really in many videos or things that taught people. And um, honestly, my big break was one random day I decided to upload videos, and the one video hit like 120,000 views on TikTok. I'm like, whoa, and it was just kind of from there. And then I think the other break for me was when I started showing my face on camera. That's when things just kind of really took off for me. But it was just a hobby. Honestly, it wasn't anything that I really intended to be a business. I think what I realized is from having been a coach is that footballs are very expensive. Like, not many people realize that a football is $140, $120. They're expensive. So if I'm able to provide a broken in football for similar the close price, then they're gonna fly off the shelf like that. And I think that's one thing I realized. Because what I do isn't just like a hobby; it's something that's essential if you want your footballs to last longer. But yeah, it was just a hobby. It wasn't like a something I set out to, you know, which is interesting because now I'll have people that reach out to me, that want me to mentor them, and I'm like, I was already coaching football. I was already in the game. This was just, it just kind of was confidential, and if anything, a lot of my early clients were my coaching friends. Are my coaching friends.
What was the hardest part about getting your company started?
Ooh, the hardest part about getting my company started. The hardest part about getting my company started was probably because when I first got it started, at the time I was in a relationship, and I was in a relationship with a girl that I really liked, and I had to look at my bank account. I had to drain my bank account, so I drained my bank account to invest all in into my business. And I think as a man, I at the time, bro, for weeks, I couldn't afford to really take her out to dates. I couldn't afford things. I couldn't. I was so invested into my business that I kind of was very neglectful in the relationship. And I say this with grin because I think not enough is ever given to somebody who's an entrepreneur or a coach, how much you sacrifice in your personal life, especially in order to be able to do these things, right? Um, and I think that was the hardest part is making that sacrifice to go all in because I didn't see a profit for probably a year and a half, something like that. But I didn't start seeing money until like down the road. So it was probably the hardest part was investing my teaching money into a business that I didn't know if it would flourish. So that was the hard and along the way is having relationships end because of my obsession with trying to ultimately do what I'm doing now.
Who you going to remember this because it
Yeah,
was your first. Who was your
yeah.
first customer?
Oof, my first customer. That is a big that is a very good question. Who was my first customer? Oof. So I remember my first customer whose football I fixed. I actually messed up on it. I didn't do it right. It didn't come out right, and it was a little peewee football. And they ended up having to send it back to me to fix. But I still remember that. I don't remember. What's interesting though? I don't think I remember like a lot of my early customers because I did everything through eBay at first. So a lot of my transactions were so like that I never got to see a lot of my things. But somebody that's very memorable and that I'll always have a lot of respect for is there's a quarterback coach here. His name is Coach P, and he coaches a lot of the up and coming players and some of the best quarterbacks in the country right now train with him. And and he was the first guy to kind of like take me seriously. And I have a lot of respect for him because a lot of my clients now come from him. But he's just such good people, and I say that because at the time I was friends with other people in the coaching business, and I would ask him, I'm like, hey, can you tell your quarterbacks about me? And they wouldn't say anything. They wouldn't care. I mean, now they say they know me, but I still remember when I would like basically almost be begging them to be like, hey, can you put me on? Can you let them know I'll do it for free for them? And they didn't. So Pete was the first one to ever really take me seriously and recommend me to other people. And again, this isn't. It's not like I'm paying him for every sale that I make. This is all from the goodness of his heart. And that's why, like for him, like for me, his money will never be good with me. I have a lot of respect for him. I think that he is We need more coaches like him. He's all about kids, and there's not enough people like him too in the training industry that's always trying to get a dollar out of you. He really cares about kids, and I see that from him. And again, you know, uh, he's probably the most memorable person from early on that was really, um, trying to advocate for me per se.
What's one business mistake you made that you learned from?
Man, one business mistake that I made early on was it still haunts me to this day was um I made a deal that was off site, meaning that there was no contractual agreement, it was just purely off trust, and it was like 5 grand. It's a lot of money. And I paid for a bunch of footballs to somebody that I could trust. 2 months passed, I didn't see any of the footballs. And I had to basically tell the guy if I don't get my money, then because he was my vendor when I was a coach. He was my vendor. He was my vendor, and so I felt like I could trust him. And he tried to run with my money, and so that was the biggest lesson that I learned was that to never send money to people that you don't know like that. That was a hard lesson because I ended up getting the money back eventually, but it was still hard because I mean you're talking about 8 9 weeks of just like especially when you're starting your business. That was that was in December too, so that was during the holiday season. So I lost, because one thing about running a business, you need money to make money, and I didn't have that 5 grand. That was a lot of money for me back then to just buy more footballs and keep the cycle going. So I would say that 5,000 probably cost me like 15 20,000 easy. So that was probably the biggest lesson was do not wire people money that you don't really know. And even if you do know, put it on paper. This is when I realized about contracts and all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
Yes, man. What's the difference between real leather footballs and fake ones? Because I just
Mm,
thought footballs were footballs. I never knew.
mm. I mean, there's so leather footballs are, they're very expensive because they're made out of cowhide. So that, like anything leather, right? If you've ever bought leather shoes, if you've ever had a leather interior in your car, it makes everything more expensive. So that's just kind of like the short way I could say it. So and not only that though, leather footballs, most adult leather footballs, official size, they're made here in America. So they're either made in Ohio or in Dallas. So that's what makes them so much more expensive. But they're made out of cowhide. But
Okay.
and then
Yeah,
the
I
other
never knew
one,
that,
the
man. I always just grab a football.
yeah, no, but leather footballs are what they use at the college and what you see on TV is always a leather football. It's never because if you notice, synthetic footballs are very light, and for professional quarterbacks, it would almost be like a cheat code because they're so easy to throw.
Mm,
Yeah,
I'm just finding out, man. I didn't know they had helmets for flag football.
I didn't know either. I was like, I found that out yesterday. Well, because I tested them, I always was wondering why they would put these things, bro. But they're actually pretty dope. Like, because you think about it, you put padding right here on the side, and so anytime you have a collision, it protects you. And I thought that was a great idea. I'm like, damn. For anybody that's ever coached in 7-on-7 or some youth, I've seen head-on collisions by accident. So it's neat. And I know there's
Hmm.
gonna always be those macho guys that was like, I know it's not real football, but collisions happen, and it's just good. It's good to have that extra layer of protection.
Yeah, you ever heard of pylon football, 707?
I have what?
Have you ever heard of
I,
pylon football, 707?
yeah. I've heard of pylon. Yeah. It's like yes, I have.
Yeah, I was just in Philly last year with them, and it was pretty dope. I didn't see the ones that you had on your own video, but I saw they did have like a little top on, like a little bucket hat. It was pretty
Yeah,
dope though.
yeah. They have those ones, but the ones that I posted yesterday, that was actually pretty interesting because those ones actually like I would say that those ones they let you breathe a little bit better.
What's something behind the scenes in football most people don't know about you?
Mm. something behind the scenes in football that few people know about me. Probably how much I love the game. I think very few people know that anybody that's known me from childhood knows how obsessed I've always been with football. I was always that kid that used to write about football, draw about football in our class. Football's always been my life. Like it's always kind of been like the cornerstone of my life and who I am. And so probably that I've been very passionate about coaching. I've lived in different states. I played football at the college level, but probably that I really love football. That I really, really love football. Like I'm not just like a guy who preps footballs. It's a I could talk X's and O's. I could coach the sport. You know, I played the sport. So probably that is that I really am ingrained into the, and I think maybe that's why I've been successful is I understand coaches and what they need, and I'm able to kind of like I'm a no nonsense kind of guy, you know, and I'm able to kind of understand what how the business works from that aspect. Because as a coach, I didn't have any time to deal with vendors. It's like get to the point, you know. Uh, so yeah, it would probably be and then the next one would probably be that I'm not really money driven. Like I've been fortunate to do very well in this business, but money hasn't been like the driving force. It's been helping other people, and you know, the business has just come with it. But I really enjoy helping people. That I really love that. I think the amount of people that have messaged me that we've been able to bring footballs back that's just been sitting in sheds forever, or coaches who've been able to save hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars because they're able to restore their own footballs. That makes my day, and that's ultimately why I decided to do that. So yeah, I would probably say those two things.
What was your I made it moment with your company?
Ooh, my I made it moment in Gio's football company. Wow, that's a good question. Oof, I think oh man, I made a moment in Gio's football company. Hmm. Mm, probably when I went in December. I went to the University of Washington, and I was able to prep some footballs for them. And I think when I was there, and I kind of looked around, and I was like, "Whoa, this is dope!" Like they knew who I am. Like so many other equipment people came up and said what's up to me and knew who I was. So I think that was it. That one was it. But I think the next one, the one, because there was I made it in the sense that people know who I am, and there was like the financial one. There was two layers of it. And I think the people know who I am was probably when I went to the University of Washington, and I think the financial one was probably when I bought my car. I have a 2022 Dodge Challenger, and it was a dream car of mine. But I think it was sentimental because when my son was one, I wanted to buy it because you know, like we're young, we want to. And I remember looking at the car payment at the time. I was like, man, like, how am I gonna be able to pay for rent? And I remember I was gonna sign off on it, but at the time, me and my kid's mom were splitting up, and I was like, wow, this is. But I made the decision to be a father over, you know. So it was hindsight when I bought the car. It was like, it was very like I was like, man, I can afford this as a single dad, and we've been able to. So probably when I bought the car and when I went to the University of Washington, those were my two like I've made in moments per se, you know. And but you know that those have been uh, you know pretty big for me.
Where did you see Gio's football company in 5 years?
Where do I see Gio's Football Company in 5 years? I want to be in corporate stores. I want to be in. I want to go to Dick's Sporting Goods, Shampoo Academy, whatever. I want to be in corporate stores. That is a dream of mine. I would like to do more like national media. I mean, you're the first podcast I've been on, so I think we'll be able to kind of reflect on this. Um, I want to the biggest dream of all. This is the big dream that I have. Is I want to be able to afford to give multiple inner city schools and youth programs free footballs. So I want to make content where I can just go and give free footballs to youth programs and high school programs and be able to visit them and make their day. And I think that's a big, like, you know, give them football equipment and be like, hey, the local inner city program, we're going to buy the football tackling bags. That's probably a big vision of me is getting to a point where I get big enough to use those contacts to give back to the less fortunate, which is and respectfully,
That,
it kind of pisses me off sometimes because I feel like a lot of the NFL guys, they don't do that. They make all this damn money and they don't give back. And I'm like, here I am, like I've made a good amount of money, and I'm like, bro, I've made probably like 20%, 15% of what these NFL guys make, and I'm giving back a lot. Like it pisses me off when they're making damn near all this money, and I'm like, bro, like you don't remember when you played youth program? You don't remember when you played youth football? Like you don't remember when you were at so and so high school and you guys didn't have enough money for the damn spaghetti pizza? Like if you donated $5,000, bro, they have food for the rest of the damn year. So I think that's the big, big, big goal for me is to be able to donate footballs with the logo on it, with like one of my GSTs, like multiple GSTs, like this one. I'll show you. I have a few GSTs like this one with like my logo on it. So I want to be able to donate a lot of them to inner city programs, and that's a big dream, and kids in need too. So that's like I want to be able to go
that's
to
what's up,
multiple inner
man.
cities across America and have that logo and be like, man, they were one of the beneficiaries, Because I mean, you see it, bro. Like whenever some of these schools go play, the private Catholic schools, and they're playing with footballs, I'm like, how the hell are you? This is unacceptable. So just kind of closing and making it more equitable.
Yeah. So when you're not making footballs, what's your definition of chilling and vibing?
Man, this is kind of a funny one, but for a long time, bro, I was kind of ashamed of being Mexican because I didn't feel like it was something that kind of helped me advance in my career. And actually, when I was young, I wanted to be black so bad that I wanted to get a damn do rag, and I wanted to be like Michael Vick, and it's because I was like, man, I want to have waves. I wanted to do this, but all that being said, is what I do on the weekends now. I go to bailes, which is Mexican dances, and I kind of have a fun time there, and that's kind of what I do. Is kind of my way of getting away from fatherhood, away from football work, and just kind of like reconnecting of who I really am on the inside. And I think that's something very you know and that goes for anybody, right? I think like even in a football aspect, like bro, there's people out there who love just making Legos. Like there's guys in the NFL right now who are multimillionaires, and that's not their passion, but they love art, they love writing music, they love drawing, they love ballet or whatever it is. So everybody has, and I think for me, it's I really love Mexican music, and I think I'm able to kind of reconnect with that, and not so that's on the weekend. That's what I do. Yeah.
That's what's up, man. If somebody wanted to purchase one of your footballs, how could they do that?
They can shoot me a DM. I try to make a posting often. And a lot of people just kind of flood, which is I've been very fortunate where every time I make a posting, I always get an immense amount of views on there. So a lot of people message me on there. So it's usually through a post on Gio's Football Company, my Instagram page.
All right. Well, Gio, man, I know you got to get back to making those footballs. But before we go, man, let everybody know what we doing.
Hey, we're chilling and vibing right here, man. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for the opportunity, my guy. You always
Hey,
have a
man.
special place in my heart. You're my first.
Hey, appreciate you for coming on, man.
All right, brother.